fine.
Okay. So it says we're live, gentlemen, which is always a good thing when there's the red button up there in the corner. Welcome, Carl. Always a pleasure to have you here. G'day, Simon. Long time no see.
Yeah. See if we can remain on topic for 10 minutes. That'll be good. Yeah. Yes. Good morning. Good. Very early in the morning. 5:25 in the AM in the UK.
Oh, look, we always appreciate the fact, that you jump on board and offer us some of your opinions and insight. It's trust me, if I could pay you, I would.
It's like playing a covers band. It's like playing a band. Of any description really. If you did it for the money, you'd be fooling yourself.
Sure.
It's like, Dave and I don't play for the money because you would definitely be fooling yourself. We take any offers, free. We'll come and play in your house.
Free beer.
Free beer. Yeah, well, actually get on really lightly if we're playing for free beer, because if we're both driving, then it's like one beer each. It's like, we're spending millions keeping us. Playing and drinking, that doesn't really work. Doesn't work at all, frankly.
We had a bit of a chat on the previous show, didn't we, about that?
Yeah.
And then
driving.
About how that's not a good thing, even though apparently it's a rock and roll thing to do.
A lot of people could do it. I can't bloody do it. That's hopeless. It all goes to even more pots. No, I shouldn't say that really, but it goes even more wreckage than normal. So I have to be sober because that's the only way I can do it to vaguely resemble something.
Well, I think the few times Keith Richards drove, he crashed, didn't he? And I think he was sober. John Lennon crashed coming back from Scotland, and I think that was just because he was just a bad driver. So
yeah, I think they used to drive around. I do think it's not quite as a although it's easy to have a man to drive you, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
When you're in that sort of position.
Well, it gives me great pleasure to introduce tonight's topic, which is a continuation from the previous show that we did together. It dovetails in, doesn't it? This guy here.
Yeah.
This guy here dovetails into Jimi Hendrix. So being a Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan nut, I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about Stevie Ray Vaughan. So I'm going to sit back as usual.
Yeah, we're going to sit back, and Carl's going to do all the heavy lifting, because this is how it works.
I'm going to sit back, and I've got a few questions and a couple of things that I'd like to chip in during the show. But otherwise, guys, go for it. Have we lost Carl?
Oh, it's a text came up on the screen.
Oh, bloody!
Yeah, no, it's like I'm happy we talked about that last week. No one takes someone else's throne, but there's certainly people out there who have welcomed. What's the word? Who've stepped up to the plate and brought something as mighty as their predecessor, in this case, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix. And that's a combination of lots of things. I think it's a combination of passion, a love for the blues, sheer talent.
Andrew's got his best SRV licks. Come on, Andrew, give us an SRV lick.
Passion, sheer talent, and Andrew and I bumped into each other yesterday, had a Christmas lunch, and just, for example, Little Wing, Voodoo Child, that song Come On, wow. It was all there, wasn't it? The power, the the rhythm, the lead. Stevie really captured that spirit, I think.
Well, I think you're right. And one of the key things that's always interested me about Stevie Ray Vaughan over the years, and there was a period there where they got a keyboard player in, but Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble were just a three-piece band. You listen to some of their live recordings, or even still watch some of their live recordings. It's phenomenal, the power that you've just mentioned before earlier, Carl, that they have. But also, when he plays some of the ballads, Dirty Pool or something like that, the subtleness, the gentleness that he has in his touch and in his playing continues to mesmerize me. G'day, Arvin. And
hey,
I think that comes down to the fact too that he was a road-worn musician, wasn't he? He'd been on the road gigging since he was 16 years old or earlier.
65, yeah.
And definitely that professionalism that he'd picked up over the years as a player is what we know him for in the Stevie Ray Vaughan Double Trouble era.
Yeah. When you read that book, he'd actually, as a young guy, played with some quite adult bands, and they did a few trips to California, and he had his fair share of rejection. It took him a long time to be discovered, and a lot of it was just chance meetings. But I remember his first incarnation, and I met the lady, Luann Barton, was called Triple Threat Review. So he would do most of the guitar work, a few little vocals. Luann Barton would do the singing. A guy called Johnny Reno was on sax. And they had a guy called Jackie Newhouse on bass. And before that, they had a guy who I know from Austin, W.C. Clark, legendary black bass player. So it took a while for them to hone in on that sound. But I think Stevie grew a lot more confident. His singing got better. And as soon as he met Tommy Shannon, that was it. And Tommy Shannon, we know, been around since Johnny Winter days.
Yeah. I didn't pick that up until I was well and truly into my 30s. I didn't make that connection, for a long, long time. And very interesting. Interesting that you should mention that, because if you speak to any solo blues guitarist, the first thing that they'll tell you about playing in a band is having that solid rhythm section behind you, covering you in a sense. But what a bass player! I'm happy to talk about Tommy Shannon. Interesting guy. He's had his issues too, hasn't he? They got clean together, didn't they? Him and Stevie Ray Vaughan. So they did everything together, didn't they? They were probably brothers in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
So do they the rhythm section, the guys talk about, are they much less flamboyant than, say, Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell and stuff? Really just keeping it now?
Quite conservative. Stevie was a lot more flamboyant.
Yeah.
Tommy flirted with feathers in his hats.
But not for long.
There was a famous story. I think it was a Tommy Shannon interview where days and nights they didn't know the difference between days and nights. They just slept when they slept when they crashed.
Yeah.
So I think they'd been probably played all night, been on a bender, went to a big shopping mall in America. The shopping malls are like 10 times the size of our malls.
Yeah, I've been to the American shopping mall. Yeah.
And Stevie was walking through the shopping mall, read velvet pants, red jacket, red hat with a white possum tail on the back, and smoking a pipe, and his pants were tucked into these large cowboy boots. And Tommy Shannon had a sobering moment. It's like, Stevie, I feel like people are looking at us.
Surprisingly, yes. Oddly, somebody's looking at us. Yes.
Can you imagine seeing someone walking through a shopping centre dressed in all red with a possum tail hat, feathers, pipes, turquoise jewellery? I mean, just crazy. But that's that Hendrix influence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The flamboyance, yeah. Especially the kind of the red velvet thing. You could see Hendrix wearing that, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And where did Hendrix get that from? You know, Carnaby Street. You know, the.
Yeah. Look at that. We've made a brick connection already.
And getting back to being in a three-piece, your Eric Claptons, your Rory Gallagher, your Stevie Ray Vaughan, who else? Obviously, Jimi Hendrix. You really get the feeling they wanted to be in control, and why not? Because they were writing songs, they were great singers, they had some stage moves. It made sense for them to be in a three-piece.
Yeah. It's kind of What amazed me is that it's kind of that early '80s. It kind of, that was almost anachronistic. It's a throwback almost, isn't it? I'm certainly in the UK. Wasn't anybody else playing three-piece blues like that?
No.
I don't think of any. I mean, UK English early '80s is kind of a lot of electronica, of course, but we did have that blues kind of revival going on with the blues band and 9 Below Zero and Dr. Feelgood, we talked about a bit. So there was stuff going on, but not in that kind of classic three-piece sense. That was very kind of outmoded by then.
The late 70s, early 80s was not a strange period, but a period of confusion. You had New Wave. You had these bands, the Stones with the old back, playing world tours, Elton John, massive stadium tours. You had the punk movement. You had a bit of a rockabilly revival. You had it was just a matter of, it was very confusing. No one knew really where anyone was going.
No,
sure.
And for Stevie to do the blues at that particular stage
was completely left field.
Yeah. Like, who's this guy? I mean, who's this guy? Who's this 5'6" guy from Texas, white guy?
Yeah. So there wasn't anybody else in America doing that kind of three-piece thing that particularly we're aware of like that.
Oh, Johnny Winter was already seasoned. He was already well known.
Of course, yeah.
ZZ Top was already well known. I mean, what made him an enigma, you think? His amazing tone?
Oh, look,
do you think he was enigmatic?
I think the thing that we have to focus on a little bit when we think of Stevie Ray Vaughan is that I mentioned it to Carl Simon, and you might know the quote. I didn't do any good research on it, but I think it was either Jeff Beck or Eric Clapton. They said that when they were driving and they heard Stevie Ray Vaughan and they heard these bends and licks, they thought it was Albert King. And And when they found out that it wasn't, Albert King, it was this white guy from Texas, they were blown away. So I think that's probably the key for Stevie Ray Vaughan, Carl, is that he was authentic. He had that. And one of the great things about the music that we follow is you don't have to be black or white to be authentic anyway. But I suppose when someone's making comparisons to your guitar playing to Albert King, and you profess to be a disciple of Albert King, well, Stevie never saw that as a insult or a derogatory comment or a negative comment. He thought that was always an honour. You know, he paid homage to these guys that were certainly leaders for him. Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
Janice. Hey, Quinton.
There's a famous DVD, or not a DVD, or a series of interviews where Albert King was playing at Antone's, and no one jammed with Albert King. He was a heavyweight, a giant, extreme muscular tone. He played flying V,
yes, right,
upside down, 6'6", 300 pounds, hands the size of baseball mitts, and Stevie was 18 or 17, and his brother or someone said, "Oh, my brother would like to sit in with you, Albert." He goes, "No one sits in with me," and they just badgered him for about an hour or two, and then he says, "Okay, come on up." He couldn't believe it. Albert King couldn't believe it. Lick for lick, note for note.
Really?
Couldn't believe it. So that was the start of some initial exposure. That this guy was definitely different in the sense that freakish talent.
Yeah, I mean, and also what the other thing that because I don't know much about Stevie Ray Vaughan. He's a bit, as I say, you know, he came in the '80s, and I was off down some other jolly jaunt in the '80s, and so it's not. So I was interested to see that he actually started in the mid to late '60s playing. I was kind of like, blimey! I didn't realize you've been doing it for like 20 or 15 years before you know, a bit more than that, getting on for 20 years before he kind of hit. That's interesting, you know, and you could see why, if he started off in the mid to late '60s, why he plays like he plays. You know, with obviously the Hendrix thing. I understand Lonnie Mack as well was one of his big influences and stuff. You know that because, as I say, it was such a just now seemed to be such an anachronism. You know, out of time thing. Turned up in the '80s. You know, bloke with a 3-piece blues band playing Hendrix stuff. Like, blimey, that's a bit. Not many other people doing that kind of thing. And I think that's obviously why, because, you know, when he grew up, that's what he liked. So he played what he liked. Well done. Yeah, can I just say good morning to Metal Soda, Janice, Lala, Quentin, and Arvin and Kubrick Lover. Great to see you guys. Thanks for dropping by.
Yeah,
he was really interested in that as a thing.
Right. Well, we see the period from 83 to 90, 7 years. We see that period of 4 or 5 albums, beautiful tone, a unique tone, but the general public doesn't see the period from 65 to 83, 15 and 3 or 16 to 18 years of perfecting his tone. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know? And that tone, as we both know, Simon, he tuned down half a step. He favoured the Strat. He liked the humbucker sound, obviously, because he liked Albert King. To accommodate that, he used heavy gauge strings, I think 13 to 54.
Piano wire, yeah.
And then...
that's right, yeah. 13 to 58. Oh, you're doing the bottom E string down by some distance.
And then a combination of Marshall and Fender amps together.
Yeah, and of course Dumbles as well. Dumbles.
Yeah, and he kept his floor pedals pretty minimal, just a Vox Wah Wah tube screamer. I think that was about it.
Yeah, what's really interesting though about Stevie Ray Vaughan with those Dumbles is that you're right. He was just using Marshalls and Fenders while he was playing live. He didn't get hold of the Dumbles until they recorded their first album, and that those were the Dumbles that were in. Oh gosh, who was the guy that gave them the recording studio time? The guy that wrote "Running on Empty."
Jackson Brown.
Yes, so they were Jackson Brown's Dumbles, And what's interesting is that Tommy Shannon said that they couldn't tell the difference in Stevie Ray Vaughan's tone from the Marshalls and the Fenders and the Dumbles. They couldn't tell the difference, but
Just all
Stevie,
him.
but Stevie
Yeah.
kept on going on about how these Dumbles had such a wonderful tone for him, and then he managed to get hold of some Dumbles after that. But interesting. And also that Tube Screamer. I'm not a complete nut when it comes to knowing a lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan's gear, but he just used that as a clean boost. He didn't have any distortion on there, which is what most people would use a Tube Screamer for.
Yeah.
Oh, he just turned it up to 10, didn't he? Just to give him the extra bit. Yeah.
Well,
Yes, I've read that.
It's amazing because
Can we, Carl, hold on.
he plays really loud, really intense, and really clean. So any mistake's going to drop like a lead balloon, and no mistakes.
Yeah, you've got to be careful if you play loud, haven't you? Can we just, Kubrick, Dumbles are modified Fender amps, basically, aren't they? They're made by a man called Howard Dumble, Alexander Howard Dumble in California, and they are infamous as amps. He's been making them since the 80s, I think, maybe a bit before, and a lot of big players have played through Dumbles. Joe Bonamassa has 2 Dumbles. He's got Dumbles that he plays quite a lot when he's not playing his Fenders, but I think they're he play 2 of his Fender signature Fenders and 2 Dumbles. I think he does. So basically, they are amps, but they're modified. As I said, they're modified Fender amps.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. A Dumble might cost you $100,000, and then you might not think it's any good because he tends to build them for the player that he's making.
Are they extreme custom amps, just made to order, handmade?
Yeah, handmade to order, and but covered in. He used to cover the electronic stuff in wax so people couldn't see what he'd done. And
John Mayer's played a couple of Dumbles over the years too. What's interesting with him is that John Mayer is honest enough to say that what you said, Simon, there are some shit Dumbles that he knows people who have bought because they are Dumbles, and there are very good Dumbles. So, but I suppose at the end of the day, people are going to buy them because of the name.
Yeah.
You
can still put your name down for one, but it might be 10 years before you get it. I don't know what the waiting list is for a Dumble amp, but it is very long. And as you say, they're very expensive to buy from Alexander Dumble.
I did not know any of this at all.
Interesting.
He's a weird guy, Howard Dumble. He's got I think he kind of is very I shouldn't say idiosyncratic. In that as I say, he will do his own thing. He will, he will make an album, make an amp specifically for the player, and stuff like that. So that they're all different. As Andrew says, they are all different, and you might get one that you don't agree with at all, and think, well, this is a load of old, but because you're not the player that it was designed for.
Yeah, interesting though how the other guys said that they couldn't distinguish between the tone of Stevie Ray Vaughan between his Marshalls and Fenders. So I always found that interesting.
Yeah,
but the guitar,
there's the tone.
But a guitar player is going to hear something that a drummer and a bass player will never hear.
No.
Sorry, Carl, I interrupted
you. A Telecaster, a Gibson, a Rickenbacker.
Yeah.
And he still has that trademark Stevie Ray Vaughan tone. So,
we said this a lot, haven't we? You can give Eric Clapton, David Gilmour some cheap Woolworths guitar and a 50 quid amp, and they'll still sound like Eric Clapton. It sounds like Stevie Ray Vaughan's the same, isn't it? Still sounds like him. Kubrick lover John Mayer's Silver Sky is based on, I think, a 63 Strat, especially the pickups. Or a 63 Strat, I think. So, it is very similar to a Fender Strat. Yes, it is.
When you compare, I don't like comparing guitar players because everyone's different, but
Sure.
I'm going to say that John Mayer is very talented. I think that he knows his way around the fretboard. He does a lot of clever licks. He's almost too clever. But you compare someone like him against Stevie, and there's just no comparison as far as power.
Oh, yeah.
Power. Stevie had this amazing driving power. Where it came from, I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I suppose it. Yes, I mean that's one thing to listen to him. That's one of the things, isn't it? You get that tremendous kind of push on, don't you? You know, I mean, the beginning to Pride and Joy. You know, da 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 da. You know, da 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 da. You know, it's like it's quite driving, isn't it? You know, it's kind of which I kind of think is a sort of in a sense a kind of early 70s thing.
That intro lick to Cold Shot sounds like a chainsaw is about to start up. You know? Yeah. And you're right. It's one of the interesting things when you've got a single guitar player who's playing lead and rhythm. You know, that rhythm that he does is on those, obviously on the faster ones, but he's quite driving. I mean, absolutely right. It's like kicks in, doesn't it? It's no kind of it's not kind of lolling about, you know, behind the beats and stuff like that. It's like we're on it and crack on. And if you zoom in when he's playing, he's almost like a DJ scratching records with buttons and fiddles. He's fiddling those tone volumes and those pickup selectors like a
lot.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And that's got to be something to do with it. Circle strumming, metal sir, blimey.
Yeah.
Janice Lala says she loves doing Pride and Joy. She only plays the chords and sings. I hope you're doing it in the approved Stevie Ray fashion, Janice, and speeding it along. I don't know. Yes, I don't know what circle strumming is. That sounds right. Yeah. I don't know if that works. Probably does. Yeah.
Stevie's a clever concoction of Albert King, Jimi Hendrix, and Lonnie Mack.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, Lonnie Mack, as we talked about 3-4 months ago, his breakout song was Memphis. And he used the whammy bar a lot.
Yeah.
And so that's where we got the term whammy bar was from Lonnie Mack. But Lonnie, if you listen to that song Memphis, Wham, you can hear all that sliding, all those double stops, that Chuck Berry. It's amazing.
Yeah. It all gets back to Chuck. I mean, I think that's interesting. Is it that there's not only the blues bit, there is the rock and roll thing in Stevie Ray, isn't there?
Oh, big time.
You know, and I think that's quite an important thing. I mean, I in my old band a long time ago, we used to play Houses Are Rocking.
Oh, neat.
You know, which is not basically, it's a rock and roll song. Basically, you know, it's not there's not basically about it. It is a rock and roll song. It's not a blues song. It's a rock and roll song. You know.
That last album was very rocky.
Very
more into rock and roll. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was Doyle Bramhill's influence too. His co-write, his co-songwriter certainly had that plan for him. And you know, that was natural. That obviously was the road to go. You know, the rock music. Yeah.
Yeah, if he'd remained alive, I think the stadium sort of just got bigger and bigger.
Yeah. So Soda's talking about the circle strumming. That's that Texas strumming. That Texas. I can't do it very well, but it's
a lot of palm music.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, I see. All right. Okay. Yeah. So you're playing on a different pickup, going forward and going back.
Yeah. It's
And that's that
difficult.
pride and joy thing. That's that pride
Yeah.
and joy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
you're moving
difficult.
like that. Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting.
It's definitely a Texas thing, a Texas shuffle, but also
Texas Shuffle. That's it.
but Jimi Hendrix did it very well too. Very, like Andrew's saying, very hard to do. Yeah, very hard.
Yeah. So we're all gonna have a go now, buddy. See, I've got my
more than
strat
that,
out
though.
on or
Oh,
off.
good. You have a go.
He's playing and singing at the same time.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I'm just waving my arm about. Got to try playing this. I'll have a go at that later. That's interesting. Yeah. But I get the idea. You're playing across two different pickups. You've then got them live. It's good work. I don't know if there's I presume there's a.
I had a call come through. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you
Or
for
are you
double
just
checking.
pleased? Or are you just pleased to see him? Thank you very much. Here a week.
Yeah. It's what's the word? Yeah, interesting. He chose the Strat. I guess the Stratocaster is more versatile than a Gibson.
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot of theories, and I suppose we have to take Stevie Ray Vaughan at his word too. He liked the way that a Stratocaster felt, and we've spoken about that before a lot on these shows. Sometimes the guitar, it's about how it feels in your hand against your body, and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I think you mentioned that earlier, Carl. He wasn't a big fellow, you know. So having a Stratocaster, if you're not a big fellow, and what's the time that they're doing a gig? You know, what, 2 hour gigs every second night or something like that. You know, so that was, from what I understand, one of the first reasons why he particularly liked the Strat. It was just
and being a Jimi Hendrix super fan.
Yeah. The other thing I'd say is
you can't go wrong with the Strat.
Yeah. Well, this guitar has apparently it's got like the Stevie Ray Vaughan thing, because it's got apparently a 59 body and a 62 neck, which is now his guitar and a 62 neck. Now, if it's a 62 neck, you can't really see it on here, but this is pretty. If I'm going to go further back without killing myself, it's quite. I haven't got very big hands, and yet this is a very suitable for guitar for somebody without very big hands. And you've got big hands, you'd be all over this guitar. It's not. It's got a thin neck, you know. It's a thin C-shaped neck. See, I'm never too sure about this.
Did you say thin or thick neck?
Oh no, thin. This is a thin neck. This is a thin neck. This is thinner. I think the late 50s ones had quite thick necks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Much
more.
Stevie's number one had a thick neck. Eh?
No.
Did it? No, I don't think it did. I think if his guitar of choice is number one is a 63 body with a 62 neck, and if it's a 62 neck, this is a 62 neck, and it's pretty small. You know, it's not. There's not a lot going on in the neck front. It's not a great big thick baseball neck back. My loads. It's really quite. I've got small hands, but
my uncle.
So when he was checking out the Strats in the back of that shop, that famous shop, what he was doing is that he was making sure that he was able to get his top thumb around over the top so that he could play these chords. Yeah. So and obviously we know the reason why he was doing that, because he was influenced by Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix did the same thing. So So for him to play that bass note and then cover the scales and the pentatonic, he had to be able to. So again, that's one of the reasons why that number one, as Simon pointed out, had that 60s neck, which was a little bit thinner than the baseball bats of the 50s.
Yeah.
Hey, Four Walls. Been a long time since we've seen you.
Four Walls, how you doing? Thanks for dropping by. Kubrick Lover says, don't Les Pauls and Stratocasters have the same amount of frets? No, they don't, Kubrick Lover. They don't have the same amount of frets. Do they? Is it Les Paul is
24.
24 is a Les Paul and 22 is a Strat? This is 22. My Strat's 22. It doesn't have the. It's got the octave there, and doesn't have another octave. So it's 22 frets. I don't think. Or do they have the same number of frets but they're different scale lengths?
Well, it depends. I've got a couple of Strats that have got 22 frets and one that's got 21.
Okay. What about your? What about your Les Paul? How many's that got?
I'm just counting. 21.
21. So they have got different amount of frets, and they are different scale lengths, aren't they? As a Fender is.
Thanks, 20... Janice, for popping by. It's always nice to see you.
That let's just take it out. So scale length, Fender has 22.5, and Gibson uses 24 3/4. So slightly longer scale lengths.
Okay.
So yeah. Yes, thanks, Janice, for dropping by. So people of us, I think they have slightly. So I don't know what. We're now getting to technical luthery as to what the difference is between longer neck. It's slightly harder. I suppose. Is that softer strings?
I think also the interesting thing about Stevie was his action was really high. So it wasn't an easy guitar to play, his guitar.
I suppose if you've got a 58 on the bottom E string, you're going to have a high E string, aren't you? Otherwise, it's just going to ground out, isn't it? It's going to have to be so. Especially you get down the nut level, you get down here. You get down here. If that's a really massive string, it just isn't going to work on a really low action, is it? You're just not going to get it. I wouldn't have said. So it's was it only 21 frets? Oh God, count them later, metal. So it's very difficult to count up to 21. It's quite a lot of. Just on the because I'm just. I mean, he apparently had slightly smaller than average hand size. I don't know what average hand size is. I mean, that's like I say, you have to just. But apparently his hand. You'll love this. This is his hand size between 7 1/8 and 7 3/8. I don't know what kind of measurement that is. Is that there? Is it here? Is it where? Anyway, it's there to there.
I always thought he had.
He had a long thumb, though. He had a long thumb.
I don't know.
So I don't know. I have no idea about whether that's true.
Tommy Shannon said that he had hands like a one of those people that go out in the forest and cut trees.
Lumberjack,
that's it. Yeah, he was 5'6", skinny, had big forearms and big hands. I don't know.
Andrew, the guitar's quite loud and is going over Carl.
Oh, really?
You can't hear me?
Yeah. But it goes over. It gets interesting. It goes over the voices quite a lot.
Oh shit! Sorry, guys.
That's right. It's fine.
No one could hear me.
Carl's fighting a losing battle against the mighty
shit.
Stratocaster.
Sorry, mate.
Story
It's
of
not
your
even
life.
plugged in. It's not even plugged in.
Oh, you must
Sorry.
have a sensitive microphone.
Yeah, it's cool.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, it's all right. But it's,
I couldn't.
I don't think so.
Do I sound quiet or loud? Because I can't.
You're quite quiet, but yeah, I mean, I find this very interesting. People play guitars on here. The guitar is always louder than the vocals. When the people are playing, all of a sudden, you notice when you're listening back, somebody's burbling away, and all of a sudden they play, and you go, oh, it's much louder. That's no, it's fine. Carry on.
I tell you who else had a really unique tone. We're getting slightly off the blues topic, but
Hey, Sonia.
Was Mark Knopfler.
Fingers.
He had a beautiful Strat sound as well. So, and don't forget too, a little bit of that Texas influence was a little bit of hint of country in there too. A little bit of country.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Well, it's bound to be Texas. There's bound to be some other, some Tex-Mex stuff mixed in there, or somewhere
Absolutely.
in there. There will be stuff, won't there? That.
So.
But I mean, yes, the great thing about Mark Knopfler is really the finger style, isn't it? It's playing with the fingers,
Absolutely.
not playing with a pick. So you don't have quite the same. Yeah, you get a softer attack. Yeah. Good morning, Sonia.
Oh wow. And the interesting thing of the Leslie cabinet he'd used too.
Yeah.
What was that? Is that ripped out of an organ?
Yeah, well, it's a separate cabinet. You don't need to have with the organ was set, but it's got a turning speaker, so you get that wow kind of flutter effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
and George Harrison and Eric Clapton used that on Badge, did they?
Okay. Well, according to this book here by Andy Aldorf, he used the late 60s Veritone, so that amp essentially is an equivalent to a Leslie. So it wasn't a Leslie, it's a Veritone, and it features the spinning baffle inside that creates the vibrato effect, which is what we were all familiar with the Leslie. So
Vibroverbs.
Yeah. So he was using a vibratone, which I don't know anything about other than what this guy here is saying.
Or vibratone or vibroverb?
Vibratone.
Something.
Yeah, because they had some Fender amps called Vibralux,
no,
so
it's just
kind of Vibra confused.
Yeah, the speaker cabinet was driven by one of his Vibraverbs.
Ah.
Yeah, okay.
It has to be driven by an amp, so it was a Vibraverb.
And what's it called? A vibratone?
Vibratone, yeah.
Vibratone. Let's look it up on the internet. Vibratone.
He was very, very, very passionate about his sound, his tone. I think that he worked hard to have that original tone.
The key thing right through Stevie Ray Vaughan's career is that, and it upset a lot of people, depending on the venues that he was at, but he always played loud.
Yeah. Eric Clapton went on record to say when he first heard him at concert, he said he couldn't handle it. But then he realized later on, after listening the second time, well, that's just who he is.
Yeah.
Wow. And once again, it's a three-piece. He's got to fill in a lot of gaps.
Do you want to? This is a. I think this is a. I can't quite tell.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, Simon. Yeah.
Get closer and then come back a bit. There we are.
That's it.
That's it. And it is made by Leslie as well, so it has that kind of patented Leslie sound.
So what did George and Eric use on Badge?
Leslie's.
Wow.
So they use Leslie speakers, which must be very. I don't know what the difference between a vibratone and a standard Leslie speaker is off the top of my head, but I think they do a pretty similar job, don't they? It's really that whirling, the turning speaker that gives you, as Andrew said, that kind of wow, fluttery.
And it's quite a very orchestral, large, reverby sound, isn't it?
Well, I understood that the Leslies were made for organs. You know, essentially they weren't made for guitars, whereas the vibratones.
Was made for guitars. Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? You're right. Yeah, because all those Hammond organ players used to have them, didn't they? And play over the to give them a extra tone. If you could, have you never heard of Leslie speakers? They're quite famous as Andrew says, in organ playing circles. So if you've got a Hammond B3, you'll have a Leslie whirring speaker to give you that.
Just go and listen to Badge by Cream.
Yeah. so we knew Badge used it. We knew that Stevie used it on Cold Shot.
Yes.
Jimmy Vaughan used it as the rhythm line on Couldn't Stand the Weather, which sounds amazing. Any other bands use them that we know of?
Was guitar players, Carl, not as a...
Yeah. Well, your guitar players or bands, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, lots of those 60s bands, so Steve Winwood would have had one because he's a keyboard player, with a Hammond. Yeah. Anybody with a Hammond B3, so John Lord, maybe in the early days, not so much. He used to play through Marshalls.
I see.
To give you that very kind of, so that it's quite often, with a Strat, it's quite often Blackmore and Lord are doing the same things at the same time to produce a really fat sound kind of thing. The riffs or something they play together.
Yeah. No, it's it breaks the mold quite nicely, I think. Because obviously with the Fender amp you have that tremolo button or switch too, which gives that wavery sound, which a lot of the blues guys use, the swampy sound.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. No, it's forever etched in my mind, that beautiful sound.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
That's interesting. So the Leslie speaker was built in the 30s to get a speaker for a Hammond organ that better emulated the pipe or theatre organ. Discovers that baffles rotating along the axis of the speaker cone gave the best sound.
Wow.
Amazing, yeah. Which Hammond wasn't interested in. So let's see if we yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, specifically does the. So of course, Robin Trower, of course, the great Robin Trower played. Played Leslie's. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing.
Couldn't Stand the Weather is another Stevie Ray Vaughan song where he's using the vibratone.
Yeah.
Jimmy Vaughan's using it. What about
Buddy Guy as well?
Oh, really?
Yeah, wow. Buddy Guy. Yeah, apparently his guitar amp first stopped working when he was recording Junior Wells's album Hoodoo Man Blues. Recording engineer Stu Black rewired the Leslie speaker in the studio to work with Guy's guitar, which became a significant use of the guitar with the speaker.
Oh wow!
That's 65, obviously before. Yeah. So I mean, lots of people. It becomes a kind of an effect, doesn't it? If you want something a bit different, you can.
Wow! Because I think there's a close-up shot. They're quite rare of Stevie Ray Vaughan's setup, and pretty minimal. I think there's a YouTube guy that's basically emulated or copied his setup.
Oh, there's a few. There's a couple of hot shots out there that have done it pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty streamlined and simple. There's just like Andrew was saying. There's regular volume and there's a boost.
Yeah, pretty much, and a wah and a fuzz.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, I think yes, as we said, yeah, and then a pile of amps.
Yeah. I mean, he got a lot of sounds and tones out of his guitar because on a Fender Strat, there's a five pickup sounds, isn't there? Out of phase and in phase.
Yep, 5-way switch. Well,
5-way
that's
switch.
interestingly. If he's got a 63 Strat, then of course the 5-way switch didn't come in till 78. I want to say
So he
late
got that put
70s.
in.
So no, he would have wedged it between the two things. Because once you've got those 3-way switches, the art of it is to get the switch between the two, like 1, 3, and 5 positions
really?
to get to them. Yeah, you wedge them. Some people did it with.
I'm 90% sure, Simon. He got the 5-way switch put in when he was.
Did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm 90% sure.
Yeah. Well,
because
if it was available, you would, wouldn't you? If you went, because this is pre-vintage guitar, so I don't think people would have worried about it so much. But
he wasn't worried about the fact that it was a vintage guitar, or he wanted a guitar that was going to work and that he was going to gig with.
Yeah. So Carl, if you wanted in between switch like this,
if
you wanted that in between, so people, you'd have to kind of go get it in the right position, until
I think Buddy
until it was
Guy
there.
I think Buddy Guy had to do that.
Might have done, and some people, if you wanted it to stay there, some people used matchsticks. They wedge a matchstick and then wedge the switch against the matchstick to.
Clapton did with Brownie. He wedged it in there.
Did he?
Oh, wow.
With a matchstick?
Yeah.
Because they're out of phase. They call it a bell tone, and you can hear it on Love Struck Baby, Tin Pan Alley, Lenny. Obviously more of the ballad style, and I think Mary Man. So yeah.
Just to pick on a couple of questions in it. No, that's right. The Kubrick Lover, the 3-way switch was basically each of the pickups, but then people found that if you put the switch between the two pickups, so 1 and 3, you put it on 2, you got the 2 pickups together. And that made a different sound, a bit more of a kind of iron face, but not hum cancelling. I don't think, maybe a bit actually, but
no,
but not particularly. It's not hum cancelling thing, is it? It doesn't turn them into humbuckers. He turns them into 2 single coils playing together.
A very, very much a unique Fender surf guitar, unique sound. Beautiful. I'm going to say that Fenders and Gibsons are just polar opposites.
That's right, and I think isn't that? For me, there are Leo Fender hit the ball, out of the park. Twice the Telecaster, which is a different sound to the Stratocaster, but those 2 guitars, you can't. And then the Les Paul, and those are the 2. To me, those are the 2 strands of guitars. And you either go wrong with it. You can't go wrong. You either buy a Gibson. Well, you don't either. If you want to just have 2 guitars, you have a Les Paul and you have a Strat or a Tele.
That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's the benchmark of guitars. Would be the Fender and the Tele. Let's just call them the same family, and then the Gibson Les Paul.
Sure.
Although they have, you'd argue that the Tele and the Strat have different sounds. But they do
same company.
Yeah, but brilliant. Brilliant kind of utilitarian design. With a tone that really hits it. You can tell a Tele. You don't listen to that. The first 2 Led Zeppelin records, you go, oh, that's a Telecaster. Jimmy Page doing, but. And I think that all other guitars are really just off those 3 guitars. The Tele, the Strat, and
one of the key things too with Stevie Ray Vaughan's tone is that he always played, generally speaking, with 2 amps. So if he had his 2 Fenders going or 2 Marshalls, and he never ran them in stereo, obviously, but. One would have a little bit more crunch, and the other would be a little bit more cleaner. So that those 2 amps running together, and then obviously when he had his solo and he would click in his tube screamer, would just boost it a bit clearer. So I think if you've ever had an opportunity to play through 2 amps, it's remarkable what it does with your tone. It's just if you haven't done that, guys, you go and do it. Go and get a
I've never done it. Interesting. I've never.
Neither.
But
Neither. So one was set up more bassy, and the other one was a bit more trebly. Is that right? Or
yeah. So just to give them that tonal variation, look, I don't know what picks Stevie Ray Vaughan used soda. I would suppose that they would be probably 2 mils. That they weren't soft picks when you consider what he was playing. They would have been pretty hard.
Pretty hard picks, when there's yeah.
But
good morning, Guitar Hack.
Hack.
How you doing?
But I think that's the secret to Stevie Ray Vaughan's tone, is that he two as well. A lot of things, but he having those 2 amps running together certainly gives you a variation.
Yeah, very particular about his sound. Very particular.
Yeah.
And that tuning down half a step made a big impact too. I mean, all of a sudden you sound different to everybody, I think.
When I did it, mate, it's just phenomenal. So this guitar here that I have is always tuned a half step down, and if you go and do some Stevie Ray Vaughan licks or any Hendrix licks, if you're playing that in standard, it just doesn't have that mojo. You tune it half a step down, and you're getting close. So years and years ago, when YouTube first came out, and you went on there and you saw these guys giving you Stevie Ray Vaughan lessons, and they were saying, tune your guitar half a step down, they were right.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
And so Slash did it.
Hey, Jack.
One of your heroes, Eddie Van Halen, did it.
Morning, Jack.
So, I guess a couple of things is you could get a deeper rhythm sound, and the strings were a bit easier to bend. Is that right?
Yeah,
I guess so. Especially if you're using very thick strings, on baritone guitars, they're all tuned down to C or something, aren't they? C standard, and then they have, like, as you say, the same 58s and 64s and great bass strings on them and stuff, which you can do because if you're tuning that down, the strings get quite flappy, don't they? Less tension.
Jimmy Vaughan, in his own right, the older brother, was a great guitar player.
The fabulous Thunderbird.
He just played a regular Strat, tune normal, through a Super Dulux Fender amp or twin reverb. No effects.
No tube screamer.
Yeah, just totally different. So yeah. Obviously, Jimi Hendrix had a bigger impact on Stevie than it did on Jimmy Vaughan.
Yeah. So, in answer to your earlier question, he used Fender medium picks, and he played with the fat end,
which is, for you guys who don't know, the fat end of a pick. The fat end is, so he's playing it like that, not like
that.
Not like that.
Yeah, the other way around.
So he's playing it like that.
Blimey,
which again makes a big difference to your tone. Makes it faster.
Does it? It's fast, does it? Yeah.
Yeah. He would snap his whoops.
Oh.
Blackout.
No, someone's trying to ring him.
Oh, is it? No, somebody's trying to ring him. Oh, well, no worries.
No, I'm here somewhere.
Okay, well, that's good. We can hear you.
Oh, here we are. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Awesome. But no, I think that it's all these things contribute, don't they, to somebody's sound, and just having thicker strings, detuning, as you said, Andrew. Are they just standard 10 strings, or have you got it thicker strings on that guitar?
No, I've
You
got
feature.
11. So this is my
Oh, okay. 11
my
to-
Stevie Ray Vaughan clone. But what's interesting in this latest book here, one of the things that the author mentions is that towards the end, after Stevie got sober, he went back to tens because he could feel his fingers. So one of the reasons why he went up 2 or 3 gauges is because he was drunk and and on drugs, and he couldn't feel.
Right. Yeah.
Got
yeah.
clean.
Started. Yeah. That's
and he
interesting.
Well,
yeah.
that cocaine mixed with Crown Royal is, instead of regular fuel, is nitrous oxide. So he was playing. You know, I mean, it's like going to the gym and having a pre-workout caffeine drink. It's, he was.
I want to
going
know,
on
Carl. I want to know how you know this.
Oh no, just from reading the book. Reading the
Of
book.
course, yes, of course,
Yeah,
yes. Of course.
Blame the author.
He told me. That man told me. Yes.
But so cocaine's a stimulant.
Yeah.
Sure.
A massive euphoric feeling. So he would have felt on stage like superhuman, even though he was, but amplified times 10.
Yeah.
So Stevie's mentioned this, and Ronnie Wood has. As soon as they sobered up, they actually could hear themselves playing, and their playing actually in some ways improved because they were more in tune.
Yeah.
You know.
One of the interesting things that I read about that is playing on 13s, and man, he used to split his fingers open regularly, his fingernails, and then you have to stick them together with super glue to keep them going. It's like God's way of saying, go back to 10s and stop messing about. Honestly.
Yeah. I'm amazed. He had a really good guitar tech. There's actually some amazing YouTube videos of him doing a guitar switch when he breaks a string.
Yes.
They call it the smoothest guitar switch of all time.
Oh right, really? What does he do? Specifically, that kind of keep playing but take it off, and then some bloke comes up and sneaks another one in, and kind of, or just throws it.
It's fantastic. Yeah. Google it, guys. It's amazing.
Like you mean like BB King changing his string while still playing and stuff like that? Have you seen that?
He doesn't miss a beat. I think there's 2 videos of it, him doing it. But he had a guy, I think Rene Martinez or someone, or some.
That's right. Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
And he basically treated that guitar like a hot rod, just customized it, shaved the nuts, different kind of frets, different wiring, whammy bar in a different place, I think. You know, a lot of getting screwdrivers and getting the drill out and just changing it. Sandpaper. Woodworking lesson.
I must have a look at the SRV breaking a string. That sounds amazing. Yeah.
So getting back to that tuning at half a step.
Yeah.
Wonder what influenced Jimi Hendrix in doing that. What? Just different colouring.
Yes, because he did it as well, didn't he? Yeah, he was playing flat, didn't he? Yeah.
Because that was never heard of before. You had your T-Bone Walkers, your BB Kings played in standard tuning, and then you had some of these blues guys who played in open tuning. But the half step, I wonder what instigated that.
Well, okay, so from what I understand, most guitar players initially tune a half step down because of the vocal range of the singer. So if you look at Jimi Hendrix, he wasn't a high pitched singer, so the fact that he worked out to tune half a step down to match his singing also gave him an ability to be able to play the guitar in a different way, because we've all agreed earlier that it makes it easier for you to bend your strings.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Stevie Ray Vaughan. So obviously Stevie Ray Vaughan, being a student of Hendrix, is going to probably
Would have known that. Yeah.
do a lot of what we would do. Yet, Jimi Hendrix does this, or Keith Richards did that. So we'll give it a go and see if it works. And if it works, it worked. And it certainly worked for Stevie Ray Vaughan too, because again of his voice. If he played in standard, the tone would have been completely different.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I think Hendrix did tune it down to E flat because it matched his voice better. As a kind of, as a general
Hendrix,
thing, you just discover these things, don't you?
Hendrix didn't have an amazing voice. We didn't have a bad voice, but he would have figured out the guitar. In order for his guitar to accompany his voice, he probably had to make a change.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I mean, there's a lot of bands now, older bands with older members who can't quite sing in the pitch they used to, so they tune down to E flat or something. And I think it does give a slightly different sound as well, doesn't it? Slightly.
Well,
you'll get a
Voodoo Child sounds
strings
a bit darker, doesn't it? It sounds a bit darker.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A bit more of a drone.
Bit more of a drone, and I guess that Stevie wanted that as well. I don't know if it's...
Oh, absolutely. If I admired somebody, I would.
Let's face it. If you're playing 13s and you need to bend, and you're an E, it's easier to do it in E flat than it is in E.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's still easy, but knock off half a step and in your away kind of thing is it's interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like Andrew was saying at the start of the show, we were fortunate enough to get a couple of videos, VHS back in the day, and I think I borrowed them off Vince Marston.
This is interesting.
In New Zealand, Simon, that was friendly with from Hamilton Raglan. That was friendly with Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Mm-hmm. Oh right, okay.
Stevie Ray Vaughan's, I think, his last girlfriend or fiance was a Kiwi.
Yana.
Oh, right, okay.
Yana Lapidus.
And that's it. And so we were watching him do play. It was Austin City Limits or some show. This is before Al Macombo came out. I said to my uncle, he sounds just like the record. And my uncle said, what he's doing, he just plays live all the time.
Yeah, that one there.
Yeah.
Not that one.
Okay.
Oh, it might have been that one. Yeah.
Just to go back, Stevie Ray Vaughan said in the interview that why he tuned to E flat. This is quite interesting. I don't know this. He liked the sound better. In fact, the Hamilton guitar has an inch longer scale, so the strings are the same pitch as if it were tuned to E. The way it works more accurately, and it's still the same sound, which is a little lower. He says, as far back as the electric blues that I know of, people have been tuned to D. Some people tuned to Hubert Sumlin, Howlin' Wolf's guitar player, played in C a lot, which is amazing. I didn't realize that. He used great big strings and played in the 4-chord position all the time. So if everybody's in A, he's playing in D. He didn't always do it, but it made the strings sound really powerful.
Yeah,
that's it, which is interesting. Yeah. So obviously that tuning down bit, and obviously Hendrix would have obviously, would have known about Hubert Sumlin and
absolutely,
yeah.
Because I think Dimebag Darrell, I think, played the top string was D instead of E, one whole step down, and then the rest of the strings were a quarter step. That's how he got his, not a half step, a quarter step. It's technical, isn't it?
So some people need to be spoken to. It's really,
and then you have like death metal and hardcore metal and Tony Iommi tuned down to C sharp.
Yeah. See, there's another one. Needs to be spoken to severely. I'm joking, but but you can see that that if you start, obviously with Black Sabbath, you get that very doomy sound.
Yeah.
Obviously you tune down there and it's wobbling about like crazy. But yes, and so you get that doomier sound. But also, wouldn't half make Ozzy Osbourne's life a lot easier singing down there, hasn't it?
What's interesting is Metallica and Megadeth played in standard D, I think.
What standard tuning bit in D, starting with D
D
rather than E?
or E?
Oh, E, I think E, just E. I'm pretty sure Metallica for sure played an E, or did they tune down?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Metallica tuned down. I'm sure they tuned down to D.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure when Cooper, was it Jack Daniels says, "Long way to the top" by AC/DC is a quarter step flat, but that was just AC/DC being lazy.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that as well. You get some songs are in a very odd time. You know, think, what tuning is this? And they've obviously tuned up with each other and just gone for it. You know, close enough. We're all in tune with each other. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know.
Well, Jack Daniels is a very, very good Australian, so he knows the secret to AC/DC. So they would change their tunings all the time, so that when they would be playing a standard A chord, for example, if it was tuned to D, that would be something I don't know, but they were very good at that. So that they wouldn't have to play chords in different positions, so they could just use the same patterns, or the same chord shapes to get the different sounds. So very Australian, very clever, and very good.
Yeah, see,
one of the AC/DC.
Our guitar theory
Getting back
correspondent,
to
Guitar Hack,
DVDs,
says that Highway to Hell is half step
I
between
think
E and E flat.
if you guys haven't seen the 1982 gig of Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble at Montreux, check that out, because I didn't know for a long time, for years actually, that the crowd were actually booing him. You could hear something in some of the recordings, but it became famous later on that the crowds didn't like what they were doing. And all credit to Stevie Ray Vaughan. He just carries on and just plays his set.
Andrew, I've read that was about the fact that some of it, I think, I've read that some of it was about the fact that he was playing loud blues, and Montreux is a jazz festival.
Well, apparently the night that he was supposed to play was an acoustic night. You're right, Simon.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, the crowd were preconditioned to hear more black acoustic slide and stuff like that. More down home. And they weren't
some Delta blues.
Delta blues, that's it. Yeah, they weren't. They were off guard. They weren't prepared to hear this guy come out.
Ooh la la, jazz. Yes, indeed, Jack.
They
but it's interesting that
prepared to hear a guy come out, volume 10 on every knob control, balls to the wall, hitting the floor.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's a bit like Dylan going electric. It wasn't.
Yeah.
The fact that he was doing it at a folk festival was like lots of muttering because it wasn't folk, apparently.
But it was a blessing in disguise, because it was David Bowie or Jackson Browne or John Hammond or someone was in that audience and says,
Thank you, because we needed to talk about that, didn't we? Thank you.
Yeah. And someone called up somebody and said, you need to get this guy either signed or in a studio or something. And then the Rolling Stones came in the mix, and then it was just wow, overnight.
Well, apparently Mick, loved the band, wanted to do something with them, but Mick said, "Well, I just don't really think that blues is selling. So we're not going to make any money. We're not going to make any money with you guys."
And if there's one thing we know about Mick, the properties.
So do you want to just give us a bit of background to the Bowie thing, because I think that's quite interesting, because he could have gone on a complete different tangent, Carl.
Well,
Morning, Phil.
Bowie at the time teamed up with Nile Rodgers, had a pretty hot band, and Bowie, being a consummate professional, said those Albert King licks will suit my new album Let's Dance perfectly.
Yeah.
And so Little China Girl and what's that other song? Quite a few of Let's Dance.
Let's Dance. Yeah.
I actually really like that album. I think it's a classic.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah. And Stevie, they put Stevie on there, and it just worked out. It was a treat. It was like, wow, okay. And Stevie couldn't believe it. He said this guy, this thin Englishman, was, sent a limousine round, and there was girls in the back of the limo. There was some white powdery substance at their disposal. Top penthouse suite. Just rock star lifestyle. They went from the back of a van that leaked every kind of oil imaginable, brake fluid,
That's
oil,
correct.
Transmission fluid, to New York City of all places, best restaurants, everything.
Yeah.
And then I think David said, "Hey, listen." I think David wasn't necessarily condescending, but said, "Well, you're in my band.
Yes.
You're going to be my hired gun."
Yes.
And I think Stevie missed his rhythm section, his brothers, and he made a decision that got him eternal respect. That he turned his back on world tours and money, and
Went
go back to
that
Texas.
Back to that van.
Yeah.
Back to that leaking van.
I've seen The Good Life and I don't want it. Yes. Really? I mean, I think he didn't. He met him at that Montreux Jazz Festival, didn't he? David Bowie was at that Montreux Jazz Festival.
Yeah.
And heard him play there.
Yeah.
The booing one, kind of thing. Yeah.
And that
because at that particular stage, and we saw this with Mick Jagger with Who's the Boss, that early 80s, a lot of the hired guns were very much of the Satriani, Steve Vai vein, weren't they?
That's correct.
Kind of purple guitars and doing a lot of is it called a pregrio solos? Melodian?
Mixolydian.
Mixolydian. Aeolian. Yes.
Throw them with some Frigilia, Modium,
Phrygian
Dolium, refrigerated Modium.
Anybody ideas what that actually means? I've read them. I've heard Rick Beato talk about them, so I'm appropriating all these words. I don't know.
Okay.
And
well, I'm reading all about them now in Vai's book. And
yes.
It's all Greek to me.
Is it quite literally blowing your mind? That's what I want to know.
I'm just a simple blues guitar player. I just know the major and minor pentatonic. Anyway, back to the show.
But he kind of started from scratch again when he teamed up with this rhythm section. He had a bit of a taste for that rock style.
Apparently, Carl, I was just saying that one of the reasons why he didn't is that it obviously slated him in to play with David Bowie on his tour, and obviously he had Texas Flood coming out and wanted to kind of support that and do that. So they came up with a solution. David Bowie's management said, let Stevie and Double Trouble open selected dates on the tour. That's right to Stevie Ray Vaughan. But then Bowie's management reneged on the deal shortly before the tour, and they wouldn't allow Double Trouble to open. And Stevie couldn't give interviews about his album whilst on tour with Bowie. He said, forget it, which is probably the right decision. It's like if your artistic vision is being compromised by David Bowie's, and I'm sure quite a lot of people have done that.
Well, and we've talked about it before, that 17 or 16 years prior of the grinding on the road and the love of playing, and keep in mind too, not only did he want to always talk about his brother and buddy Guy and Hendrix, but he also wanted to really put Texas on the map too.
Oh, for sure. And he's quite vocal about the time that he had with David Bowie. He doesn't say any bad things about Bowie. In fact, talks about that time fondly. But it's interesting, Simon, because in some of the interviews that I've read after that Stevie gave, he has a bit of a twist on that, where he said that he wasn't going to ditch his band. So that's why
that's right, yeah.
that's why he turned down Bowie. I don't think we knew about the interview processes or anything like that until years later. But who knows? Clearly that's a component that they would have been discussing at the time. They couldn't have, the hot guitarists talk about a record that's just come out while they want to sell Bowie's Let's Dance. Yeah, it's
and we've got to remember, and we've got to give David Bowie a little bit of credit. Not credit, but we've got to understand where he's coming from. He's got a huge team behind him.
Oh yeah,
a lot of money backing him.
You're big time.
He's got this hot record. He's probably been paid in advance. The tour date's been set up. The
World tours.
Thinking,
yep.
Who's this kind of ringing from Texas? He could ruin everything.
Yeah.
You did.
The crowd might not show up.
But on the other hand, you can't. Every support band in the world is going out, supporting something they've got out. So it seems a bit controlling of Mr. Bowie's management to say you can't play and you can't promote it in any way, shape, or form. Seems a bit.
Well, the funny thing is, it gets funnier because after Stevie went back to Texas to the van and to the Roman, his last limousine ride and dropped off at the airport.
Kicked out the door. Take your doggy bag with you of talcum powder.
On the videos, you see David Bowie with the white glove with the Strat doing the licks.
Yeah, in the pub in Australia. That's correct.
Yeah. So it was early 80s. What a time. What a time. Have you seen David Bowie live, Simon?
I have. Not in Ziggy Stardust tour.
Wow,
1972. Brilliant, But it was brilliant. I mean, he was obviously, he's in his Ziggy Stardust period, so he's got all the gear and kind of. Hack, that's really funny. Hack saying, "Well, I'll have to go back to the Mixolydian shop and maybe I'll pick up a Locrian as well while I'm there." That's good. Well done. Yeah. I said, he was fantastic, But you kind of, as I've said, in the 70s, you just went to a lot of gigs, So saw Roxy Music around the same time, They were brilliant too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was brilliant, And it was, as I said, it was quite. You forget those things are quite breaking because I'd never seen somebody with red hair before and kind of that kind of makeup and those kind of that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like wow, you've got a lot of wow factor going on there with the but that's a sign of the times. But what's funny about those things is you could go up on the day and buy a ticket. The final. Have you ever seen that? There's a film about the Ziggy Stardust film. Have you seen the film of Ziggy Stardust where he announces that it's the last gig they're ever going to do, out of the blue? Imagine being there. Just film this. You wait till you get the film of this. You'll be, because he hadn't told anybody he was going to do it. He just said, this is the last gig we're ever going to do. But even then, in that tour, one of the things is somebody going up to the box office on the day and buying a ticket to go in. So it wasn't, Look out, Carl! That cat's going to knock something on your head.
Well, it's pretty agile. Hey, there's a famous interview of David Bowie on the Dick Cavett show, I think.
Tone Bolts. How you doing?
He's geeked out of his mind. It's crazy. Have you seen that one? He's about 100 pounds. He's skinny as a rake, the thin white Duke, and he's totally coked out of his mind. He's
living on nothing but cocaine and milk. That was his diet then. His diet, so the thing was cocaine and milk. That's all he lived on. Yeah. Yes, that's really a very, very bad idea.
So the root source is from a cow, and the other one is from a leaf from South America.
Yeah,
not a whole lot of food, is there?
Not vegetarian.
Getting back to Stevie, it's quite interesting he didn't really talk about the English guys too much. He did talk about Jeff Beck being a bit of an influence. But Jimmy Vaughan talked about the Blues Breaker album being quite important, Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
But you didn't really hear Stevie talk about the Jimmy Page or Keith or Eric. Not much, eh?
No. He
No.
makes a couple of mentions from what I've read. You know, obviously to Clapton early on, as you said, a bit of Cream,
Okay.
but yes, certainly very very American focused.
Okay.
Well, if you live
Yeah.
in Texas, you've got all those Texas guys to look up to and stuff, isn't it? You know, and,
Right.
and I guess, you know, if you're starting playing in 64, 65, which he was, that actually you're going back to the same roots as Beck and Page and all those guys, aren't you? You'll just go because you're you know, he's obviously a bit younger than they are, but not much. You know, and those formative years would have been just, you know, because in a sense, you know, he would have been much. He obviously would have known about him, but he would have been, you know, all those black blues guys would have been really his influence much more than Page and Beck and stuff,
so.
isn't it? I can see that completely.
It was no big deal to just go down the corner and see Freddie King play.
Yeah. Albert
or
King or whatever.
Or, you know, as soon as Anton's opened up in 75, regular guys there every week. So, well, it's just interesting because Joe Bonanessa has a totally different take. He bypassed all the black guys and said, I love these English guys.
Yeah.
Joe Perry was the same from Aerosmith.
Yep.
Possibly Eddie Van Halen, I guess. They went straight to
Clapton,
the English source.
Yeah, Eddie Van Halen was a great, massive Clapton fan, wasn't he? As a kind of, you know, thing. So I think that it is interesting that they just didn't influence him. But I guess that's my guess is that because he hasn't made it in you know, he hasn't really made it in the 70s. You know, in the 60s he's playing clubs, isn't he? You know, and doing his thing. You know, and therefore his, as we said, the roots of that, you know, in the late 60s would still be the guys like Albert King or Freddie King or whoever he could see in his local clubs, you know, much more than Led Zeppelin, who he probably didn't go and see and didn't, you know, and Cream, they're a bit more distant sort of things. You know, obviously heard them, but, you know, his influences were the black blues guys, you know, as we said, like Lonnie Mack and stuff. And I think that makes sense, doesn't it? To me, that makes sense. You know, that's where you are. You know, you're influenced by what's around you and what you go and see.
I guess so. Yeah.
More than you know.
And getting back to the English guys were very much Gibson focused and very rock focused.
Yeah. That's true. Yes, they take, you know, and he's obviously quite a blues purist, more so than you know, Jimmy Page. I wouldn't describe as a blues purist. You know, he'd taken the blues on and taken it into a different area, which is, you know, fantastic, brilliant. And Jeff Beck the same, and you know, Clapton has started doing more, wasn't he?
If you break down that first album, so it opens up with "Love Struck Baby," which is very T-Bone Walker, Chuck Berry. The Pride and Joy is very Lightning Hopkins. The Texas Flood was a Fenton Robinson song. Mary Had a Little Lamb was Buddy Guy. Rude Mood, once again, was a Lightning Hopkins rip-off, so he did his own ripping off. What else is on that album?
Surely not.
Dirty Paul, which is a masterpiece, is very much in the vein of Otis Rush. He wrote that with Doyle Bramhall.
Yeah.
And then his little I'm Crying was against, once again, that which became his signature sound with that rhythmic strum thing.
Yeah.
And then he closed out with that Lenny, which is very much a Hendrixy style of ballad, isn't it?
Yeah, and not really any trace of any British, British blues. You know, those British blues players. Not really any trace of that in his style and what he played. In his, you know, you don't detect any influence in that. Okay, Carl's got another call. He's come back. So I mean, I think he obviously heard them, but they weren't. Carl, you're silent, mate.
Carl.
Yeah, because did you just get a call or a text or something? It just knocked you off, knocked your vocals, your volume off. Guitar Hack's in a happy mood. Look, he's being harassed by Joe Bonamassa to hand back his Dumble. Sorry, Jack. Yes, influence. Yes. Carl, you might have to go out and come back in again. No, I can't hear you. No. Turning it sideways. Is he a Hack Witch 59? That's the question. So I think I can see that he that they weren't, those British guys weren't his influence really. And the American originals were his influence, and that's where he got his playing style from, didn't he? And where he managed to not take so much from the British guys, which I think is true. Snakebite, cider and lager. Heck. There's a lot of messing about in the chat going on. Funny. One of the things that did I was interesting that he used lots of things, didn't he? I mean, I'm reading here that he had a Billy Gibbons built a guitar for him, and had EMG pickups in it. Goodness sake!
That's the Hamilton, isn't it?
Yeah, Hamilton. Yeah.
And he had this other one, a white guitar with lipstick pickups or something.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's very it's weird that he obviously wasn't bothered about experimenting and changing it up and things.
Hey guys, unfortunately I have to get going. I'm just getting hammered with phone calls.
Okay, well,
business is good.
It just whoops.
We've been going
it keeps
for
knocking me off.
Yeah, we've been going for 1.5 hours. So I think what we'll do is we'll look forward to maybe doing a touch up on this show next time we get together, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah. Fine.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll have my guitar set up properly too. My plan was to play, but a couple of things happened today. So.
Okay. Well, I look forward to you jumping on Sunday then, and you can play a couple of riffs. Jack Daniels, Hack, Sonia, Kubrick Glover, Arvin. Who else joined us? Tone Bolts. Haven't seen you for a long time. Always good to see you, Tone Bolts, in the chat. Phil. I watched your stream earlier today, Phil. I didn't make a comment, but I was watching you play. You were doing some acoustic riffs. Wonderful. I think you were doing a Donovan couple of songs there, so he'd be proud of you. Yeah. Who else we missed there, Simon?
I don't know. We missed Kubrick Lover, Jack Daniels, Guitar Hack, Arvin, who was first in, Sonia, and Janice Lala. She came in, so thanks, Janice.
Oh, yeah, Janice, always good
Phil,
to see you.
Phil Mosley, yep. Just rolling back up to the top as far as I can tell. I think that's probably everyone. Oh, Metal Soda? Of course, Metal Soda.
Oh, Soda.
Thanks very much, yeah. Okay.
I'd like
Scroll
to thank
up.
Simon and Andrew as well.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'd like to thank my mum. I'd like to thank
Thanks, John. Thank you for the kind words, John. No, it's always good. I look forward to the next show we do. Plug in and do a couple of those riffs, because we're going to talk about some technical aspects, aren't we?
Yeah. What I need to do if I play the guitar, I've got to get this through the laptop, which will free up my hands, because right now I'm holding the phone.
Well, you can't play guitar and hold the phone at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're using it as a slide.
Unless you get your girlfriend over to hold it for you.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be nice.
And the phone.
That's a good one.
Shouldn't be allowed out, should I?
She says, "Can I help you play the slide?" Yeah.
She said,
So,
"Is that a canoe in your pocket? You're just pleased to see me."
Yeah. Kubrick,
But,
he doesn't have one. He's incognito. So unfortunately, if you want to catch
That's true.
John Smith, you have to catch him here on my channel.
hey, Simon, I know that Stevie's. I know that you're probably a little bit like me with other bands. Like you admire him, but you don't know much about him. But that live at the El Macombo,
Macombo,
which
yeah.
was famous with the Rolling Stones. It's a club in Toronto.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've got Elvis Costello live at the El Macombo.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I think they did a whole series, didn't they? Those El Macombo live. You know, I think that was a sort of semi bootleg. I think, but
Stevie played.
yeah,
Stevie Ray Vaughan played all the time, as we know. But Tommy Shannon said there was one particular night that stuck out, and they'd had a country band that had played before they played, and there just so happened to be a film crew there,
right.
and they captured the whole concert, and the camera work's phenomenal. The sound is amazing,
Yeah, yeah.
and he's probably playing the best he's ever played in his life that night. It would almost been perfect, but for some reason they left Little Wing off.
Yeah.
There was about 3 extra songs they could have put on.
Right.
He played about 18 to 20 songs in his live shows.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about value for money.
Yeah.
With a 5 minute break between sets, you know, not a half an hour break.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 18 to 20 songs at 5 minutes each is only just over an hour and a half, isn't it? 100 minutes.
Yeah.
Just over an hour and a half. So I guess that feels about right to me. You know, you do an hour and a half, don't you, as a kind of
so if you're just in between breaks, Simon, during the week,
mm-hmm.
the intro to Texas Flood, you'll get a very much an understanding of his tone, the strength of his hands, and the size 13 string.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Kirk Hammett's gone on record to say that that's probably one of the finest guitar performances he's ever heard.
Yeah.
I think is it on YouTube? Is it on YouTube at all? Or
yeah.
Check it out.
There's about 6 or 7 songs, Simon, from that set on YouTube. But what's really interesting, and I'm glad Carl mentioned it, is that the camera person deserves a medal because they're doing this. It's focused on the guitar. You can actually see the notes. You can see the scales that he's playing. It's not focused on Stevie doing his guitar face. You know, it's So I from a guitar player's point of view, if you want to check out some of the patterns that Stevie Ray Vaughan played, that's the DVD. So he didn't play out of the pentatonic scales, the blues scales, and the BB box. You know, he wasn't. No disrespect. He didn't know all those scales, the Phrygian and the Mixolydian that we were talking about earlier. He played major and minor basically with the blues notes. Kept it simple, but did it his way. But he knew the fretboard, though. That was the key. He knew exactly where the notes were.
Yeah,
and that's
he would play a whole scale on the one string, like for example the E string.
He'd run up and down, do that one string run up and down. Yeah.
He did that. Buddy Guy used to do that a lot too.
Yeah.
But Stevie, the core of Stevie's sound was very hard rhythm backing, and then the solos were the icing on the cake.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to you coming on to the next show because there's a couple of theories, Simon, that Carl wants to elaborate with us, and I was kind of looking forward to it tonight, but because he's not plugged in, so next. So I don't want you to mention. I don't want you to mention it now. It's important that you do it with your guitar because, Yeah, you got to.
Yeah.
They got to come back.
Yeah, I just need to figure out how to.
They got to come back.
My laptop is supposed to have a webcam, but I need to do some experimenting. I've got to get
Okay, no
Yeah.
problem.
yeah.
Give me a yell and we'll sort it out.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So we're talking next Sunday, yes?
Next Sunday, yeah.
morning. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll be in Devon, but I'll be there. It's fine.
Awesome.
Oh, neat. All right, guys.
All right,
Okay,
guys.
rock and roll.
Have a good week, and have a good week, everyone in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys.
See ya.